My guest today is Sam Henderson, assistant professor of theater and film at Baylor University, and has been recognized for his outstanding teaching and research over the last decade. He is an award winning film director and writer, named one of the 25 screenwriters to watch by the Austin Film Festival and MovieMaker magazine. Now, Sam's most recent short film, Adieu, starring the beloved Hollywood veteran Jenifer Lewis, won the HBO Short Film Showcase at the American Black Film Festival, making it Oscar qualified for the 2026 Academy Award Best Live Action Short. Now, Adieu made its world premiere at the Oscar-qualifying Flickerfest in Sydney, Australia, and went on to screen at several other Oscar-qualifying fests, including Cleveland International, where it won the FilmSlam Student Choice Award, Florida Film Festival, Martha's Vineyard, as well as Hollyshorts, and the Dallas International Film Festival, where it won the Grand Jury Prize for Best Texas Short, and again became Oscar qualified at Indy Shorts. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Professor, film director, and even actor Sam Henderson and his powerfully moving short film, Adieu, to the show. Welcome, Sam.
Thank you so much for having me, Ward. I've been looking forward to this for a very long time. I'm honored to be a part of this.
Well, I have been looking forward to it as well, and I was so happy that you reached out to me so we could talk about this incredible film, Adieu. So I'm going to start this off a little differently. So you have to tell me, who is Mrs. B, and was she the inspiration behind Adieu?
She absolutely was. Oh, just a quick clarifying point. That bio, which thank you, beautiful job reading that. Uh, we won Martha's Vineyard last weekend, so that's a super recent double qualification, and that's how we got qualified by winning Martha's Vineyard. And unfortunately, all the representatives for the film, or fortunately or unfortunately, we were at Hollyshorts. And so we got a message on the day that we screened at Hollyshorts that we'd won Martha's Vineyard, which was just an unbelievable surprise, but really grateful for that. I just wanted to clarify that.
Oh, hey, I'm glad you did because now we're in the heart of campaign season,
Yes,
and
sir.
I already know that you have already put together an incredible team. But who is Ms. B?
Yes. back to the point at hand. Miss B is my mother, to let the cat out of the bag. Brenda Henderson. She's been a middle school theater teacher for almost 40 years. She taught me everything I know. And, you know, I this movie was born out of a conversation I had with her a couple of years ago, Ward, because you live in Texas, we live in Texas, but Texas isn't immune. The whole nation, unfortunately, isn't immune from the threat of gun violence, particularly in schools. And, my mother's 70 and she lives in San Antonio. She works in San Antonio. Not too far from us, Ward, Uvalde happened, a few months before that. And so I remember talking to her after that, and I said, Mom, I worry about you. I mean, you're not a spring chicken anymore, and this threat is real. And I know this is something that schools have to pay attention to across the country in terms of protocols and what the teachers are supposed to do and what the students are supposed to do. But it became very personal because I was thinking about my mother in that situation. And it was a hard conversation to have, but she told me, and this was the impetus for the whole idea. She told me, you know what? She calls me Junior. If I was ever in that situation and I was face to face with someone who was in that state, I think the only chance I'd have is if they knew me. Because if they knew me, I don't think they'd be able to hurt Miss B. If they knew who Miss B was to this school and to the students, and if I was one of their teachers at a certain point, I think they'd have a very hard time, irrespective of which state they were in, going through with their madness. And so, without mentioning Shakespeare or anything like that, the wheels started turning, and I thought, wow, that I don't think I've seen that dramatically represented. Of course, there have been several school shooting types of examinations through film, but this particularly specific situation that my mom was just kind of playing through in her head got the wheels spinning for me. And that's when I sat down and started thinking about how to put together a story that would really be her story. Thankfully, gratefully, she's never really been in that position. But maybe this playing out, this experimental creative license, will prevent it from happening. Should there be the threat of that?
Well, here is why this film is incredible. I'm just going to use the word incredible at the moment. When we see school shootings on television, and I'm talking, well, they're all bad regardless.
Yes. Yeah.
But we know that it's like bam, 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 bam. It's like instant. There's no dialogue. It happens. Somebody comes in there. They're angry, whatever. What you did was you created the conversations that we will never hear, we'll never know existed, we will never know that were ever initiated. So you're
Right.
bringing an internal message out of this that I've never seen on film before. But it also, you just gave me clarity, because I was wondering, because I thought you were using your theater background in this film. You were actually using your mother's.
Well, yeah, we have a shared background, right? I mean, I'm a classically trained actor. My earliest memories of my life, Ward, are sitting in my mom was a single mother. She raised me by herself. The earliest memories of my life are sitting in the back of a theater hall at rehearsals at 8, 9 o'clock at night, watching her rehearse students. I mean, there's a scene in the film where there's a wide shot of the students on stage, and you see Miss Hopkins in the center. I mean, that shot is the POV of my childhood. It really is. And so, the whole reason I wanted to be an actor or get into the theater, the reason why I fell in love with film and film acting and directors and all, is because of my mom. I mean, it's connected to my earliest memories. And yeah, so I don't know how many times she's done Much Ado About Nothing, but I've also done it. I've also done it as a performer, as an actor. So yeah, it's representative of both of our backgrounds for sure. But I'm gonna have to blame it on her. She started it.
Well, I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. And so, as a whole, and since you bring up Much Ado About Nothing, can we still learn? Because Shakespeare plays a very big role in this film.
Correct. Yes.
Can we still learn from Shakespeare's words, even in the modern era?
It's a great question. It's something, as a professor, that I have to think about often. And my philosophy is based on this quote that I heard. I can't remember who originated it, so please forgive me, but I think it's a great quote about classic work. And this particular actress was talking specifically about Chekhov, but I think it's relevant to all the great classical works. She was saying, somebody had asked her essentially the same question: why Chekhov? Why now? It's a late 19th century playwright. The world has changed and so forth and so on. And she said, wait a minute. The reason why we do Chekhov is because Chekhov was writing about humanity, and humanity has not changed. And I often tell students, we can fill in the blank with Chekhov. We can put Ibsen in there. We could put Tennessee Williams in there. We could put August Wilson in there. And we could put Shakespeare in there. Because Shakespeare, even in the 16th, 17th century, was still writing about humanity. And, he didn't know what a laptop or a cell phone was, but he knew a human being. He knew human beings really, really, really well. you know? And so I think that's why, with a contemporary topic that's in a do, Shakespeare still works. I mean, he had no frame of reference for that, obviously, for that particular situation, but he was still writing about human beings. And so I think it will be perpetually and eternally relevant because of that. And that's what our great geniuses, that's why they remain. They knew something about humanity. Michelangelo knew something about humanity, right? And that's at our core. We've been the same since we started walking upright.
That I agree with. And, with a do, it gives us so much to unpack about people. It reminds
Yes.
us that we live in a different world now, one that is, well, unstable. So, as a director, you are looking through the eyes of Miss Hopkins, played by Jenifer Lewis, but you also had to look through the eyes of Bradley Taylor, played by Zack Lane. What was your mindset on set to bring the balance to their interactions?
It's another great question. So this was co-written by a really good friend of mine. We sat down and wrote this. Obviously, the premise and the core of the story was based on my personal experiences, but Ryan Romine, my co-writer, we've written 5 shorts together, and I rely on him a lot in terms of bouncing off ideas and figuring out scripts and that kind of thing. And I remember talking to him about the story, much like I'm sharing with you about the background and my mother and all of that. And one thing we really wanted to set out to do, or try to figure out how to do, is one, not make the shooter, as you've articulated as previously, this twirly mustache, evil villain person, right? So whatever we think of a school shooter is fair game, right? That person doesn't deserve a whole lot, right? We already know that person. You have to be going through something pretty sick to feel compelled to go to a school, right? That's in
They're broken.
That's a different kind of brokenness. And so I don't think we had to preach to the choir on this person's bad. But we also didn't want an over amount of sympathy for this individual, because I'm not sure they really deserve that either. To go back to my earlier point, all we wanted was just a sliver of humanity for that person too. Just a sliver. If there was just a moment from Miss Hopkins' POV, we can view that broken person as a person. I think that was the perspective that was interesting. So that was the balance we were really looking for. Could we remove the black cape version of this person for just a second, not to make them in any way heroic or sympathetic, but just as a person for just a moment, through the eyes of this teacher who has several tasks in the moment, right? Between that standoff and who else is in the room, not to give too much away on the film, but that's the balance we were really looking for. Could we endow this person that we view a particular way with just a smidgen of humanity for a moment through the eyes of this person who is attempting to balance a whole bunch of things at the same time?
Yeah, you give us, with the shooter, you gave us a little bit of his reason.
Yes.
And
yeah,
which I really appreciated. But I'm going to get to that a little bit deeper in a moment. Now,
okay.
when I watched this film multiple times, and I was trying, because I understood Miss Hopkins' side, I wanted to really think about Bradley's side, because that's the heavy side.
Yeah.
Unstable. And I kept thinking, okay, when it comes to school shooters, I've noticed 2 patterns. One is one being bullied. One, which you brought forth in this film, which I never really thought about: loneliness, isolation. But the problem is some of those isolated themselves on their own, in the fact that the evil within loneliness, it becomes the devil's workshop. And you
That's
start
right.
thinking about things that may technically or not real or accurate. It's like the old saying, 90% of the things you worry about never happen.
Never don't happen. Right. Yeah.
It happens in the same sense for those who end up isolating themselves. But when I looked at it, both connect by the lack of love and attention,
Mm.
and they haven't, which something they may not have had in their life. And I felt that in this film. Now, I'm going to say something, ladies and gentlemen, so do not misinterpret what I'm about to say. This short film, Adieu, is a love story in the sense that we need to love people more. What so would that be a close assessment about Adieu, or is it true that we have to worry about the quiet ones?
I think you hit it on the head, Ward. Really. Look, I understand that if you put a school shooter in any movie or short story or not or whatever, that's an incendiary character in action that's going to incite a lot of feelings in people, right? Again, because especially in America, we're not immune. We know what this is. But to come back to our earlier point, I did write. It's a dedication to a teacher. It's a dedication to a mother, and yes, I really hope that beyond the school shooter thing, people really see and feel the teacher side of it and maybe even think about the teachers in their lives who have had to stand and deliver in a moment when they needed it the most. That's what we're getting at, right? So
Yeah.
that is love, or that is love, and that's actually about we had a world premiere in January. We've been to almost 20 festivals, 10 Oscar qualifiers, and the single greatest comment that I've gotten was someone who's walked out of the theater, found me, and said, didn't mention anything about the shooter, didn't mention anything about Shakespeare, just said, I had a teacher like that. I don't know where they are. I'm going to look them up. I need to thank them, which I'm getting choked up.
Well, no, no. Hey, when I saw this film, it brought memories back because I had this teacher. Her name was Mrs. Mulaski. She was Jewish, and when it was Jewish holidays, she wasn't there. We had a substitute, and when she
Yeah.
and then she would try to educate us. We were, I guess, nowadays they call it middle school. We didn't have middle school around when I was a kid. So, we were elementary, and so she would teach us those things. And if a kid was rude to her, she was the opposite back.
Mm.
She was always encouraging, and she was always encouraging to me, and I've always remembered her kindness. Hey, you're not doing good in this subject. Come early in the morning, and I will tutor you a little bit so that way you can get your grades improved. So it wasn't like a one and done kind of thing with a lot of the schools today. So yeah, I can see when people see this film, they're going to think back, going, "Oh yeah, I remember Mrs. So and So or Mister
Yeah.
So and So,"
Right.
because Miss
That's really
Hopkins, yeah, because Miss Hopkins, she's an encourager. Something that I
yes.
noticed when she was telling the young girl that she can do this play.
Oh, right.
And you're a professor at Baylor University, so I may put you on the spot here. How would the students describe your teaching style?
Oh no. Oh no. They're gonna have to ask one of my students. And yeah, I'm gonna have to be out of the room. They're gonna have to be honest about it. Well, first off, I don't know if you know this or not. I don't know if I mentioned this, but the young student in the film is my daughter, Karis Henderson. That is her film debut. And so the film, again, how personal can a film get? It represents 3 generations of Hendersons. That film, here's Jenifer Lewis in the person of my mother talking to my actual daughter, made by this person's son. uh, Students, gosh, I've been teaching since 2012. I think students think I'm pretty much a lightweight, that, I'm not a taskmaster, but my approach has always been war since I started teaching. And I said this on the first class I taught 13 whatever years ago, because I graduated from Baylor. I was an undergrad at Baylor, and I had some great teachers here, some great professors here. And I said, look, everyone, I just want to be the professor that I wanted to have when I was a student. I want to be the best version of the teachers and the professors who have been in my life. And I want to tell you stuff that I wish somebody would have told me when I was your age. You're 18, 19, 20 years old, you're becoming an adult. In some cases, you are an adult. And, I'm not smarter than you are. And maybe in the grand scheme of things, I might know a little bit more than you do. But you know what? What I can be is somebody who's traveling down the same pathway as you. I'm just a little bit farther down the road. And I can say, hey, there's a fallen branch back there that you're going to want to step over. All right. I've been down that road. Take the left fork instead of the right one. Right. That's how I really view my teaching in the classroom. Just somebody who's traveled down the pathway, maybe 20, 30 years ahead, and can say, hey, wish somebody would have told me there's a river that I got to cross when I get to this point. That river might not be there when you're there, but just in case it is, this might be some strategies that you can use to get across it. So that's been the heart of why, of the way I've taught my students, the kind of professor I've wanted to be in my classrooms. Wanting to be for my students the best versions of the professors and the teachers that I've had growing up.
I love it. I'm taking your class. so back on the film Adieu. I noticed something, and I'm wondering if everybody else really kind of mentally dive deep into it when they see this film. The clock.
Ah, yes.
The clock reminded Bradley of school. It seems when we're all in school, the only thing we ever focused on was the clock because it got the most attention, because it was going to tell us when the class we hated was about to be over, and then when school was going to let out. So we focused heavily on the clock when we were all in school. But in Bradley's case, I assumed that every day at school, he waited for it to end. Miss Hopkins, in this moment, was using the clock to her advantage when she was talking to Bradley. So in a way, the clock was another character in the film, wasn't it?
100%, or so astute as usual. You hit the nail on the head. That's exactly it. Yeah, and we didn't want to beat anybody over the head with imagery and philosophy of time. But yes, as we recall as students, time being something that we were concerned about. And you mix that with somebody who might be coming from a broken home or doesn't have many friends, or as we talked about earlier, might have isolated themselves. Maybe, Bradley was a person that got sent to Miss Hopkins because Miss Hopkins deals with these kinds of students. And so maybe it was a kind of a fun detention of some sort. We don't know what to do with Bradley. We'll send him to Miss Hopkins, after school or before school is over, and she'll straighten him out or something like that. And you mix that with somebody who's going through things mentally, emotionally, and overemphasizes that ticking or the sound of it or how close we are to time or how long have I been here. And here you have a good teacher in Miss Hopkins, particularly in this situation, attempting to use that to her advantage. Hey, remember, you used that clock to your advantage too. Think about that. Don't let this disturb you now. You used it. I know it bothered you, but you found a way to use it. And then here she is in this situation, attempting to use it to her advantage, trying to calm him down. But yeah, your thoughts on why we put that clock in and how it's a character in the film is absolutely spot on.
Well, it also shows too that Bradley was a ticking time bomb.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So
Yeah.
there's multiple
Yes. Yes.
meanings in that clock. And when I watch this film over and over again, and I wish teachers and parents would sit down with the kids and tell them what I'm about to say, because I've seen people who never let it go.
Mm.
And I love the fact that you did Much Ado About Nothing. So I'm going to use the title Much Ado About Nothing, as many of the reasons behind school shooters is that, not many reasons. I'm just going to, I know I'm kind of coding this lightly, but bear with me here. That many of the reasons behind school shooters is that they're upset about something that is actually just temporary. I told my own kids that school is a season in your life. What happens
100%.
there, do not let it define the rest of your life. It's a season, you graduate, you move on, and leave that stupid crap behind. Would you agree?
That's so right. That's so right. But thank you for instilling that in your kids, because isn't that just a great life lesson in general? I mean, everything's temporary, Ward. Even the moments with our kids that are tough, or even when we're at Disney World or wherever, it's fleeting. It's all fleeting. It's it's really important to be present when you can because of that. And to your point, get to a position where you can let the most hurtful stuff, or the stuff that you perceive as hurtful, where you can let it go. There's no, Maya Angelou has a great quote about bitterness does nothing to its what it's bitter against. It just eats upon its host. You got to let that go.
Well, okay. In the best perspective is, don't let somebody who was 12 years old at the time say something to you and you let it bug you for the rest of your life. They were 12.
Right.
No life experience. They know nothing. They were mouthing off. Let it go,
Yeah.
because in the end, it's just stupid. So, I mean, if I think back of the bullies that I had in school, I now look at and I go, okay, he's in prison, he's dead, and who knows where they are at, and it doesn't matter.
It didn't matter. It didn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Right now matters. You're right now, the family you're with, the people you're with, your friends, the people in the world who need your voice, your attention right now, that matters. Stuff that's happened to you when you were 14 in high school. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Now,
but I mean, it's a lesson we learn as, old man like me, still learning that lesson, because somebody cut me off on the expressway.
Look,
and then it ruins my day,
Look, I know for a fact that school was different in the 70s and the 80s. I know that school now is a little bit more because of social media, cyberbullying, and all of that.
Yeah.
So if that is an issue, then block all your I don't want to call them friends. Block all your antagonists from your social media account and let it go. Yeah. But here's the thing. I want to talk about a few lines in this film. These are the lines that made this film what it is.
Oh, wow. All right.
So the first line is, "Thought I, thy spirits were stronger than thy shames," says Miss Hopkins. Yes. Bradley says, "Thought I, my shame was stronger than my spirits." Many in this world feel like Bradley. No one looks at them or even speaks to them. And when I saw the interaction between those two quotes, I was like, wow. Will people grasp what each of them said. I felt sorry for Bradley. He was a
Yeah.
human being, which is
Yeah.
something that I'm sure that many who see this film have never felt sorry for a school shooter. But like you said in the beginning, you gave us
A little bit of
that
humanity,
that
just a
little
little bit.
sliver where you have to, but you literally flipped the script, and that was your intention.
Absolutely. And again, Shakespeare's brilliance, not mine, and a little bit of credit to serendipity because that speech, Leonardo's speech in Much Ado About Nothing, he is flying off the deep end because he thinks his daughter Hero, right, who's in a scene they're rehearsing in the film, and after the dedication, you notice in my film another hero talking about Miss B. In the actual context of the play, he's flying off the deep end because he can't believe his daughter Hero has let him down. He believes someone has convinced him that his daughter has been unfaithful, and he can't believe it. And he's in a state in the play where he's thinking, what have I done wrong as a parent, as a father, for my daughter to behave this way? And so, through a stroke of luck, this shared speech, this bigger monologue that's now split in my film, the lines you're talking about that are shared between Miss Hopkins and Bradley fit perfectly in the moment and are, as you pointed out, reinterpreted because of the context. But, the stage was set, so to speak, by Shakespeare. I just got lucky and found a passage that happened to work for the story I was trying to tell, too.
What? You know, right before that, Miss Hopkins, when Bradley said, you were just paid
Oh, yeah.
to like us or
Yeah.
paid to love us.
Yeah.
And boy, it was like someone pulled a pin out of a hand grenade. and and rightly so. Because in my day, there were teachers that truly were called in that profession and
That's right.
did love the students, regardless if they were knuckleheads
Right.
and
It
hard
was
to
a
deal with.
vocation, just like my mother. It was a vocation. It was not just another job. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I love that because when you watch that one scene with Jenifer Lewis, right? I mean, right in in the part of that film, it's like she let all protection go just for a moment,
Yeah.
But
Yes.
but mentally, you can tell that she knows the situation she's in.
Yes.
But for that moment, there was almost like you know, she just let it go and has no clue what Bradley's going to do. But she
Right.
wanted to get out like no one is ever going to say that to me. And I loved it. I loved it. So, how in the world did you come to cast Jenifer Lewis?
To that point, I will get to that. But because of that line, uh, people have asked me, "Hey, what? You know how movies work. Lines get cut, lines get moved around, things get added, people improv, so forth and so on. And usually, a film ends up being, even a short film, doesn't end up being word for word necessarily. The script that you wrote. Plus, it changes through production and through editing, so forth and so on. And people have asked me, how much of the script, is different from what you originally wrote with Ryan. And I said, there is one single action, there is one single word that was suggested by Lewis that she wanted to fight for that was not originally in the script. And it was paid. She took me aside and she said, the day before we shot this scene, she said, course, I love the script, but I just want to know, can I have permission that when Bradley says paid, that I throw paid back at him? And that is the only thing, Ward, that is not specifically in the script that she came up with, that she wanted to do. So that paid, that whole bomb that you're talking about, that's the bomb she wanted to write. She asked me if she could do that. And it's the only thing that doesn't appear in the script as is. Her saying paid back to him. She really wanted to do that. She fought to say that. Isn't that wild?
The emphasis that she put on the word paid. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, I felt the wrath.
Yes.
Okay. So she delivered, we'll just say she delivered the Oscar performance right then and there. You know,
that's right.
So,
well, you can see, if people see the film, you can see why she wanted to say it. You know, it is endowed with everything she is feeling in that moment. You know, so the story of Miss Lewis. Okay. Yeah. We wrote this script in spring 2023. We hired a wonderful casting director who is Texas-based, Allie Beans. People in Texas, people in the country hire her. She's terrific. She's going to be up for an RDOs. She's been up for an RDOs before. And I think one of these days she's going to be up for the new casting Oscar that they have now. She's terrific. Wonderful with actors. One of the first people I hired for the production. And so we went to Allie. She read the script. She gave us a great list of names. And then that was the summer, if anybody recalls, this little thing called the writer's strike. So that was preceded an actor's strike. Right? And so agents weren't taking scripts, managers weren't taking scripts. You know, people were writing quietly and privately, but nothing was getting shopped. You know, people weren't auditioning. So we were going to shoot in that fall, and everything got pushed back because we couldn't get a script to anyone. And so the strike broke, and we started going through our list. And we aimed really high. We aimed really, really high. And I'm not going to drop a bunch of names, but think about every famous black actress over 60. We talked to their people. You know, we tried to get a script to their people.
I already know who you're thinking of.
You know, okay, all right. Okay, yeah. But about 4 or 5 of those.
I would send her a script. I know who we're thinking of. I would send her a script.
Okay. Then we're on the same page, literally. So it's September, it's October, it's November. People are turning down scripts. You know, we're pretty convinced nobody's really reading the script because it's a short. And as a matter of fact, there are some agents who are getting back to us and saying, because of the caliber of the name, hey, this person doesn't do shorts. You know, you wouldn't be able to afford this person a million years, so forth, so on. And Allie gets a script to Jenifer Lewis's people at Innovative Artist. Her manager's Jonathan. And Jonathan reads the script, and he gets back to Allie, and Allie tells us, Jonathan says, I've got to get Jenifer to do the script. I've got to find a way to get her to do the script. She's going to love it. And so we hop on a Zoom in January, about a month and a half before we're scheduled to shoot. And Lewis is there, and her manager is there, and Allie's there, and Ryan's there. My producer, Rachel Jobin's there. And Jenifer Lewis talks about how she had a stack of scripts on her nightstand, and she pulled out our script because it was the shortest. And she said she sat in her bed and she read that script, and she called her manager crying, saying, I have to do this script. God has told me to do this script as a service. I believe in this story. Verbatim, she said, I am an advocate for teachers and for this particular issue in schools. And I want to be a part of something like this that gets this particular message out. And so really, I mean, we're a bunch of nobodies, really just on our script. Or she fell in love with our script and she believed in the message and she wanted to do it. And I will go to my grave believing that she was the first one that we offered that really read the script. And that's not to break my arm patting myself on the back, but I think we would have had a shot with some of those other names that we're not mentioning if they just read the script like Miss Lewis did. But I think Miss Lewis she told us she literally read the script. And I think she was one of the first people that we asked who just flat out read the script, believed in the story we were trying to tell, and wanted to lend her voice and her talents to doing it. And boy, oh boy, as you can see, aren't we thankful? Now it's the kind of situation where even some of those, I mean, we were trying to reach, Oscar nominees and Oscar winners, and I can't imagine anybody else servicing the role at the same level that Miss Lewis, just because of her personal connection to the story.
I agree, because now when I'm thinking of the others that I would have that were probably on your list,
Yeah.
Jenifer Lewis was the one, because when you think about that one line, paid?
Yes. I don't think anybody else would have come up with that.
No.
I don't think anybody else would have done that.
But here's the thing that unnerves me, because I love publicists, but I don't like agents. You know why?
Yes.
So I have friends in the UK, and we all agree with one thing: the short film is the future.
Oh, yeah.
Major actors. Now, we know that an actor goes between films. It could be once a year, every other year, whatever. But if you want to be the actor at a level of, let's say, Eddie Redmayne, Daniel Day-Lewis, the late Heath Ledger, then how do you expect to continue your craft? The short is the place, because you and I know the short films being produced now are the stories the studios won't touch for a feature. Those 100%. Are the stories that the public wants.
100%.
Okay?
Yep.
Now, not only was Jenifer Lewis the perfect choice, I loved Zack Lane.
Oh.
Now, he gives a very emotional performance. And it was your fault that made us kind of feel a little bit sorry for a school shooter.
Sorry.
But what type of direction did you give him, especially in that scene when his emotions just came out?
I'm gonna get emotional again. You're figuring out I'm a big softie. I'm a big emotional guy, and so it comes out in my film. And when you talk to me, I get emotional. I can't help it. Because I can't say enough about Zack Lane. I hope he watches this. He was as grateful and thankful as I am to Miss Lewis, as grateful and thankful I am to. I had to assemble this team very quickly in Los Angeles. We had to move our production from Texas to Los Angeles. We started from scratch on crew in LA. We had about a 6-week window to build this team and to shoot the film. And, Zack was somebody who auditioned and came on board much earlier in the process. And I will have to admit here that if he isn't or wasn't the MVP, he's number 2. I mean, the guy is from Florida, okay? He flew all the way over to Los Angeles for a day scene, again, because he believed in the story, he believed in the script. He didn't know us from anybody, but it resonated with him. It's a role he was familiar with, that he dabbled in some other instances. And so my writer, co-producer, partner Ryan and I met with him on Zoom a couple of times before we shot the film. And we just, as you can imagine, we wanted to learn about Zack the person. Because even though we need a knockout actor, someone who's kind of gung-ho to grab onto a role like this, you want to know that this person really is okay. It was the hardest role to cast. As you can, having watched the film several times, you can understand, if people see the film, that was a very, very difficult ask. What that actor has to accomplish in the amount of time that actor has to accomplish it, that was the most difficult role to cast. And so we saw tens and tens and tens and tens of tapes from over the country trying to find this person, but not only be able to do the role, but as a person was a stable enough person, right? Who could be on set, who could be around children, who was going to be a good collaborator, that kind of thing. So he, just to be honest, Ward, he's a unicorn. He's a unicorn. He's a faith-filled guy who's a hard worker, who, took direction like a piece of cake. One of the easiest people I've ever worked with. He showed up on set ready to go, full costume, knew his lines, knew the Shakespeare back when Ford was talking about on the plane ride, how people probably thought he was crazy because he was reciting Shakespeare over and over on his, 5-hour plane ride over from the East Coast. And he came and he was game and ready to go and so professional and completely grateful to Miss Lewis and her process. They had, as you can see in the film, amazing chemistry right from the start. And so it was, again, much like the Shakespeare thing. I know some of this is skill and some of this is hard work, but I just can't discredit that sometimes some of this is luck.
Oh,
and it was
yeah.
It was between Mr. Lane and another actor that we were looking at. And I went with my gut on Zack. And again, I cannot imagine anybody else in the circumstances we were in, opposed to Miss Lewis, the time frame we had, the context of the scenario that I was asking these actors to go, the places I was asking them to go to. I could not have chosen a better person. I'd take Zack Lane over Tom Holland or Austin Butler. I would have.
Well, with the Austin Butler thing, you don't want him too pretty.
Which we had a lot of people audition who were like, no, I think you're going to be too sympathetic.
But here's the thing that made Zack Lane the perfect choice. It wasn't the anger. It was the vulnerability.
Yes. That's what we needed to see.
You have to have that, because in reality, that is really the core in people who are upset, unappreciated, or even bullied. There's a vulnerability, and that's where, that spirit lives. And he brought that up. And when I watched that scene, and I'm not going to mention how this thing ends.
Yeah. Well,
because
no spoiler alert.
Kind of surprised me there. Sam. But it is what it is. So Zack was a perfect choice. Absolutely stunning performance. But then the last look Jenifer Lewis gave in the film spoke volumes. When I watched the film the first time, I caught it. And every time I'd go back, I'd pause it and I go, the only thing her eyes are saying, now it's up to you.
Yes.
Was I right?
What are you going to do? What are you going to do now? What are you going to do? That's, again, I mean, you're acing this test, Dr. Bond.
Well, hopefully I don't flub it up, because I'm about to ask you one, but ladies and gentlemen.
But that's exactly, that look is, if people experience the film and they get to that point in the film, That is 100% it. And we only got a couple of shots on that because it's a long take at the end of it's at the end of a long take at the end of the film. And we only had a couple of shots at it. And when on set, when she gave me that look that ended up in the film, I said, we got it. We got it. We got it. We can move on. We got it.
But you know what? Here's the other interesting part of that look. Of course, we're not doing any spoilers here.
Yes, yes.
But for someone to go through that experience, the look, the countenance upon her face was that strength never left her. Never left her. And that's just where I'm going to end that.
Okay.
But there's something that caught my eye in the credits. And I want your explanation for it.
Yes.
So I noticed that one of the songs was titled Thought and Prayers.
Yes.
Was that a sign that we need to do more than just offer our thoughts and prayers during these incidences?
That is Sam Henshaw, the British singer songwriter who I love, whose people was kind enough for allow us to use that song with permission. We paid for it, but the song I really wanted to have at the end is exactly that. I think I don't want to say. I want to be clear about this. I'm for thoughts and prayers. I'm for it. I think thoughts and prayers are necessary. But I don't think it can be the only thing, Ward. And I get a little tired of folks thinking maybe that's the only thing. Oh, that's so sad. I'll hashtag this and move on. What are we going to, the Miss Hopkins look? Is that the best? Is that really the best we can do? Is it really? Is it really? Don't you think we maybe can do a little bit more? We'll take the thoughts and prayers, but when does that turn into action?
Okay, you just took the words right out of my mouth. Faith without works is dead.
Boom. 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 Yes, 100%.
Okay.
100%.
We need action. 100%. We don't need politics. These are children, these are teachers. We need safety, but we need people. We need students to know that they can talk to somebody and be open and not judged, because we have so many single parent homes, mothers trying to be fathers, some fathers trying to be a mother, and they're not getting the whole thing. Some parents are like, hey, here's an iPad to babysit you for a while. So there's not mentoring. See, when I was in school, our teachers, there was that mentoring spirit.
Right.
And I don't think we have enough of that. I think more people are like, I'm a teacher, I get paid, I get 2 months off of the year. No, you're a potter and you got lumps of clay staring at you every day. What are you doing about that?
And I think the good ones still feel that way.
Oh, yeah,
I think the good ones still. And that's what, it's dedicated to Miss B. Miss B is standing in the person, for me, of the best teachers. All of I think our teachers are our heroes. Because of what you're talking about. If for no other reason than what we ask them to do relative to how much we pay them, we often ask them to be a mother, to be a father, to be a brother, to be a sister. Oh, by the way, be really good at your job, complete these state-defined objectives that your job depends on, and be good at this and be on time for that, and be this person's parent and mentor. I mean, we asked, because I've seen it, I grew up with it. We ask a lot of our teachers still in 2025, and the best ones figure it out. And those are the people this movie's dedicated to. Those are the heroes that I'm talking about, because I was raised by one. I was raised by a hero, and I want the people who see this film to recognize the heroes in their lives and to feel appreciated if they're one of them for the things that we've asked them to do.
Ah, beautiful, Sam. Beautiful. Now you are double Oscar qualified.
Which I can't
And
believe. Yeah.
so, what would you like everyone who sees a do take away from seeing it?
What I just said. Again, the school shooter is the big thing. I know that's it's hard to separate it from the film, but I really want people, as people have come up to me and said after watching the film, to think about those individuals who are like Miss Hopkins in the film, who have been that person to them in their lives, who have stood and delivered when they've needed it the most, when this individual who they see for 8 hours out of the day have had to be their temporary mother, father, brother, sister, mentor. I really want people to feel inspired by what we ask our real life teachers to do. And maybe they will recall, much as you have, Ward, someone in their lives that was that person to them. That would be the most meaningful thing to me as the takeaway. I have a greater appreciation, or I recall how much I appreciate these individuals in my life. That's really what we're going for.
I love that, Sam. And ladies and gentlemen, Sam Henderson's Adieu is a timely film. Ms. Hopkins, an aging African American woman, is a middle school drama teacher on the verge of retirement. However, while finishing up her final notes to a group of students who are about to perform Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing, she's confronted by a new challenge that threatens her life and the lives of her students. Her only hope lies within the memory of the language of love. Now, the greatest thing in the world is love. Many people don't experience simple things in their lifetime like praise, gratitude, encouragement, or a simple thank you. Many others never have someone to talk to. Even more so, they don't have someone who will listen to them. And Adieu is about humanity. It's about human decency. The film is a lesson to put the smartphone down and start looking at the people around you. Your words can save a life, steer a career, or at least make someone feel appreciated. If you are a teacher or a parent, your students or kids are fertile soil to plant the very best into them. Sometimes one kind word will make the world of difference. Even tossing a baseball with your kid will go a long way. Now, in 1999, since the Columbine High School shooting, we have lost 203 children to school shooters, and the issue isn't going away. Today, I want you all to do something for me, and I'll do it too. When you are out and about, tell someone that you appreciate them. Maybe the checkout lady or the waiter or the barista making your coffee. Or tell your teacher, your pastor or professor that you appreciate their hard work. And if they have made a difference in your life, tell them. I can go on, but Sam Henderson's short Adieu is about to make a beeline to the Oscars. So keep your eyes on this one. And Sam, brother from another mother, thank you so much for reaching out to me.
You made me cry, Ward.
and,
How dare you?
and just sharing this amazing film with me. So I appreciate it so much.
I can't tell you how grateful I am for your work, Ward. Thank you so much. Bless you going forward. I know you have many terrific interviews coming up. I'll be looking forward to those.
Well, I appreciate that. And again, ladies and gentlemen, whatever film festival Adieu is playing at and you're attending, make sure you are in the audience. You've heard this interview. You've seen this interview. You're going to start looking for those little nuances that Sam put together, and then you're going to go, ah. And for those of you who are up and coming filmmakers Or maybe you're seasoned. This is a film, well, there's elements that you can learn, well, to improve your overall vision and craft. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, you can catch all of the Bond on Cinema interviews at bondoncinema.com. Check out our Prime show, our YouTube channel, and you can even listen to us on Spotify, iTunes, Audible, and more. And remember, you're either going to see me at the movies or from the red carpet.